Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads and must converse is the channel. Thanks for coming by. And this is a great tag. Happy Tag Tuesday. A tag that's been making the rounds. I think a lot of people have done it. It's a great tag to watch and to get into why we are the readers that we are. This is a self-aware readers tag created originally by Courtney Federer. And I was tagged by one of my favorite new channels, To the Lit House. Very awesome channel. Check that channel out if you have not already. Number one, what most draws you to a novel or story? Plot, character, writing style, atmosphere, etc. So what is it that is most likely to draw me into a story? Well, it depends on what the story is for sure, right? There's stories like Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor that I would say it's a character. The main character, Hazel Motes, is a reluctant preacher. He's an antichrist preacher, actually, and it is such an interesting story, person, a character to get into and try to figure out that this is very character driven by that tag, but also a plot might drag me into the story deeply, right? Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is a really fun read. It starts off, there's a lot of action, and you are just along for the ride with the plot going, how is this working out? What is happening? And by the climax of this thing, mind blow territory, right? So it's very plot driven, and the plot is what draws me in. But the most likely thing to draw me into a story or an author, where I just keep on with a certain author or something, is writing. Is the writing style, the how well it is written. That's what it comes down to. Somebody like Pynchon, David Foster Wallace. We're doing David Foster Wallace short story collection Oblivion right now. Me and a few guys are reading that, and the writing is so awesome that you can forgive everything else. I mean, it's not about character development, though there is some wonderful character development. It's not about plot, though there is some very interesting plots that we're touching on in that short story. But what shines is the writing, and that's what gets me into it a lot. I'm reminded of one of my favorite books of this year, Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas. It was just like one of those things where the writing itself is so good that it overshadows everything else, no matter how good the plot or the characters are like that. Number two, what is a convention or trope that will immediately turn you off? I'm not a big stickler for things like that. I've experienced enough stories, and a lot of older stories, mythology, spiritual texts, things like that, where these kind of tropes or conventions, there's only a limited amount of stories to tell. All right, that's what it comes down to. That you can change the setting, you can tell it a different way, but there is only a finite amount of stories out there. And so I don't get turned off by any kind of convention or trope unless it is just that, and just like, with no embellishment, with no new idea, no nothing. It's just using that in order to set up a framework of a story. And, I mean, that's going to be a poorly written book or whatever, right? Number three, what most appeals to you when reading nonfiction and makes you want to keep reading? Well, the kind of I read nonfiction to learn, and so the last time that I really got into nonfiction was getting into genetics, and I enjoy things like this. The Language of Genes by Steve Jones. Now, why I like this as far as a nonfiction work, what kind of brings me into it, is it's not reluctant to speculate and to make inferences off of the facts and like the the things that it's presenting. It presents you scientific facts and the state of a certain field, but then is not scared to speculate and to give you big ideas. That's like, well, it could mean this, or we could, this is an option, or that is an option. Same thing with getting into cosmology, something like astronomy. I read a lot of Brian Greene's The Elegant Universe, The Fabric of the Cosmos, that kind of stuff back in the day. And it's fun and interesting to, try to wrap your head around these big mathematical ideas and physics ideas, mathematically speaking, like that. But what speaks to me more, that I really enjoy reading more, is something like The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. Something that is a speculative nonfiction, something that is using a lot of physics and things that we do see and measure in mathematics and things like that, but uses it to create a new model, or to give an idea, to explore ideas of models that are different than the conventional models that do actually have power to explain or predict in some kind of ways. And then, so number 4, what is a convention or a trope in nonfiction that'll turn you off? Well, a convention in nonfiction, I guess, would be an overly scholarly work or something like that. But like in literary criticism, I like that kind of thing for sure. So in literary criticism, it's not something that would turn me off. But if I was reading something like a genetics textbook or something, that would definitely be something where, being dry like that, being just facts presented in no kind of way that can be enjoyed, really. You know what I mean? You're just kind of studying. Even though I like studying, you know what I mean? I study a text, but I think you get what I mean. Number 5, would you say you read more for pleasure and enjoyment, or to exercise your brain? Both, but I read for pleasure and enjoyment for sure. And it is pleasurable and enjoyable for me to exercise my brain. In fiction, it doesn't happen as much, and there's been those just wonderfully awesome narratives that you get into, stories that you get into, something like Perdido Street Station, that is so fun and awesome that you're just onto, and it's just such an enjoyment, and there's not really a lot of, intellectual delving into ideas or something afterwards, because it's complete fantasy. You know what I mean? There's not much to that, and I enjoy that a lot as well. But that's more few and far between. When I find a book that's like that, it's like, yes, this is something special. I tend to fiction that allows me to dig into it intellectually more than other fiction. Something like fiction that has a psychological aspect or a spiritual aspect to it. Something like the Beckett's Malloy trilogy seems like right up my alley. Something like that, speculating on the nature of time, the nature of being, and psychology, of course. Things like that is just really where, with fiction, I'm going to find more enjoyment as a rule. Number 6, which types are you most likely to rate higher, brain candy or brain protein? So I guess I'm typically I'm gonna be more apt to rate higher something that has brain protein, something that feeds my intellectual mind, and something that feeds my thinking, to where when I close the book afterwards, I can think about it and I can speculate on it, and I can turn it around, maybe put it up against other books, other characters, or other situations and other things that I've read, or even just real life stuff, people or situations in life, and it is has some substance to it. That's for sure. Number 7, do you have a sense early on whether or not a book will be a 5-star read for you? And also, have you ever been surprised in this regard? I don't have a sense whether a book's going to be great, like a 5-star read for me or not off the bat, because I read things that are very different, you know what I mean? They're different from each other. I don't have a pocket necessarily that I sit in where I go for something that I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to enjoy this." Um with the exception maybe of sci-fi, because I do love sci-fi, but I don't go for sci-fi unless I get strong recommendation and I know that I'm going to enjoy what I'm going to read, because there's a lot of crap out there, right? There's a lot of stuff out there like that. And have I ever been surprised in this regard? Over and over and over have I been surprised with a book that I'm like, hey, this is okay, this is all right, it's okay, and just along for the ride and enjoying it, and then it just turns out to be one of the greatest, books that I read in a while, or vice versa. Something that was fun to read and everything, and then upon the end, you're just like, what? Okay, it was just okay. You know what I mean? When you really enjoyed the read, for the most part, thought it was really this is really great, and then at the end, you're just kind of like, it was all right. So it goes either way. Number 8, considering books you've rated 5 stars in the past, do you think you would rate them the same now? I think so. I think if there's a book that I really rate very highly because I really enjoyed it, the reasons why I really enjoyed it, what that book has to it, I'm gonna really enjoy that if I would retouch it, revisit it, reread it right now, or if to say I had read it now for the first time, I would enjoy those aspects about it just as much, for sure, if not more, because the more you get, the more you have that a new piece, a new work, a new book is augmenting your thoughts and your ideas about stuff. So very cool. This was really fun. Thank you, Yasmin, for the tag. And number 9 is to tag people. So I'm going to go ahead and tag 3 of my bookish buddies that have not done this tag. I checked. I really checked. I'm going to tag the font, Barb at the font. You're tagged. I would love to hear your thoughts on this tag. Very literary Carrie got me in a tag called the book addiction tag yesterday or day before yesterday. So tagged you back. Very literary Carrie. And I'm going to go ahead and tag my boys Una and Crypto over at the Codex Cantina. I'd like to hear both of y'all's thoughts about this tag, and I'm sure it'll be so much more funny with y'all two going back and forth about these prompts. So, happy Tag Tuesday again, BookTube. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.